Hi, folks. Welcome to this new episode of the Rise Up Radio. And today we have a very special guest with us, an expert in a particular topic that we're going to be discussing with her today. And please join me in welcoming Edie Goldberg. Edie, welcome to this episode of the Rise Up Radio.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with everyone.
Oh, absolutely. It's our pleasure to have you here. Folks, a quick introduction. So, my name is Ashish. I'm the founder and CEO of Risely. And with Risely, we are helping organizations to scale leadership development using AI. But that's not the topic for today. Topic is inside gigs for the future leaders. Right, Edie? Did I say it right?
Absolutely, you got it.
Awesome. But before we go into the topic, Edie, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to our audience and tell them about yourself a little bit?
Sure. I am excited to be here. Edie Goldberg. So I am a talent management consultant, human resource strategy and talent management consultant located in Silicon Valley, California. And I have been a consultant my entire career. My initial training came as an industrial organizational psychologist, but I have been a consultant both for small boutique firms, large global companies, and I've had my own business for about 23 years now. And I really focus on the future of work. How do we need to change? How does learning and development need to change as our world of work is changing? And also, what are those talent issues that companies are facing, and how do we more creatively solve some of those problems because our old traditional approaches just aren't working. So in addition to my day job, I'm an author, I'm a keynote speaker,
I
I'm
can see that.
also a board member, and I advise HR tech companies. So it's kind of a portfolio career.
Awesome. And I can see your book behind you, The
You
Inside
can see
Gig.
my book right behind me, The Inside Gig.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's another one on strategic workforce planning.
There you go. Awesome. And thank you for gifting me that book, Edie. I've gone through it and loved reading it. So I think you have some really, new age ideas for organizations to look at talent in with a very different lens. And I think we definitely need that lens as the workforce dynamics are changing, right? So let's jump right into it, right? What is inside gig?
So really the broader term that most people would call is internal talent mobility.
Hmm,
And it can mean a couple of different things because
hmm,
different companies do it very differently. At its most basic level, internal talent mobility is really about a culture that supports employees applying for internal positions.
okay.
So it's not taboo
Hmm,
to go want to work for another manager in another part of the business. It's actually greatly encouraged for you to grow your career within the
hmm,
company.
hmm,
That's at its most basic level.
hmm,
When we talk about the inside gig, that's a bit more sophisticated and really talking about allowing employees to take on internal gigs,
hmm,
side jobs,
hmm,
projects
hmm,
across the company where you can bring your skills and experiences that you have to
hmm,
play at work so that you have impact. You can also opt into projects that you're interested in learning more about another part of the business
yeah.
or developing a new skill set that you think will help in your career.
Hmm,
So it really kind of takes a couple different forms within companies, and it can be both things at the same
yeah.
time, both moving to different jobs, but also the gig idea is
Hmm,
really about taking on projects.
yeah. So, it's fascinating the way you actually presented that it's actually a gig, and because when you look at the traditional mode of organizational structures, right? They're very boundary oriented, they're very hierarchical, they're very rigid. And on the other side, you're presenting an idea which is fluid, right? Do you think organizations right now are ready for this or not?
Well, I'll tell you why they have to be.
Hmm.
So first off, you're right. We put people in a box that we
Yeah.
call their job, and
Hmm.
then we don't let them kind of move beyond that. But the truth of the matter is that I bring skills and experiences from my past that you've forgotten about after you hired me.
Yeah.
And I also am a learning and growing being.
Yeah.
And I'm learning new and different things. And I might have side passions that are actually relevant to my workplace of new ways that I can contribute. So I think it's really important that we bring our whole selves to work. But the reason why companies have to be ready for this is kind of the business case that the pandemic had really put upon us.
Yeah.
Today, workplace challenges are changing really quickly. The demands from our customers might change overnight. We might be gung-ho working on a set of projects, a set of deliverables that are really important. And then all of a sudden, a new opportunity comes along or a new challenge. And we need to move people in the company from one part, from working on one set of tasks to a new set of tasks because they are mission critical for the organization. So it's really allowing people to be more agile in what they do, so that we can better meet our business needs and we can be more agile as a company to get the important work done.
Yeah. And that also means that the work has to be agile enough to be able to take that role, right? And the supporting structure has to be agile enough for you to be able to quickly identify that, hey, this person sitting at this particular location in this function is actually right for this particular gig, and let's bring that person over.
So it's based on two things.
Yeah.
One is understanding the skills and expertise that your employees have. So that's kind of a foundation. And that's why we've seen a huge rise in kind of people interested in skills-based work structures, whether that be hiring for skills or thinking about skills within the company to be able to redeploy talent. But it also requires moving from thinking about jobs to projects. But we all know there's been a huge rise of gig platforms, right? External platforms. A lot of people across the world are deciding to work for themselves on a project basis. And that means that there's a lot of expertise out there that's really just for hire for a project. If companies start to think in this mode in terms of projects, they can optimize the talent that they have of getting the right people on the right projects and supplementing perhaps with external talent as needed. But it's not always about hiring a full-time employee, nor is it about putting your employee in a box. But that requires a whole new talent operating model. We talk about it in the book. It's, not just about adding stuff on top of your day job, although a lot of companies operate that way. I believe in really being thoughtful about allowing employees to work at their best and highest use. So that we put them on projects where their skills really shine.
And they perform the best. Right.
Then as a consequence, they perform their best. So it's really a win-win for employees and companies.
So absolutely. So now there is a complete mindset change that is required, because what we're talking about is not only tweaking the traditional idea of employment, it's basically changing the traditional idea of employment totally, isn't it, Edie?
Yes. I mean, obviously you get hired for a specific skill set to do a specific job, but I challenge all the listeners who are listening in on this conversation. How long did the job description that you signed up for, how long was that really the parameters of your job? Work changed just quickly. We have to just evolve to meet the changing needs of that job. It's not actually so out of the norm in terms of, I can take my job and I can break it into a series of projects. And that's the first mindset shift, is thinking in terms of projects rather than a whole job. But it's not like we're completely throwing the
Sure.
baby out with the
No,
bathwater. We're not,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. But from the flip side of the organization, right? When you look at it from identifying that, hey, this role, this person, all right, you typically have a one-to-one mapping. But typically in this new version, it's not a one-to-one mapping anymore. It's basically identifying that, hey, this person is right for this kind of a project or task that we're doing. Hence, let's bring them in to be able to execute it.
What I really love, and this will actually kind of point a little bit to Risley or the concept about people rising up within the organization, is when we don't strictly think about people being a job, their
Hmm,
box
hmm,
that they fit in, but we think about them as the skills and experiences and the capabilities that they bring to our organization.
right.
We can then start to think about how else might we be able to utilize your experience, or what new skills might you build that create a new career path opportunity for you.
Hmm,
So this idea of thinking about the projects that I'm capable of doing, or the projects that I'm interested in working on and want to build those new skills
hmm.
to do that, really just helps me to continuously learn and grow as a professional.
Right, right. No, absolutely. I see what you're talking about. Interesting. Cool. So let's change directions a little bit, right? And let's talk about the role of the HR function behind it,
Okay.
right? Now, there are two sub functions inside HR. Let's say talent acquisition is one under the HR umbrella. I'm not putting it right there, but talent acquisition and L&D, right? These are two functions that have a huge role to play and also benefit from the inside gig paradigm, right?
Mhm.
How do you
Mhm.
see that?
Yeah. Um, I certainly argue that in talent acquisition, if they think in terms of skills-based hiring,
Hmm,
um, they can open the aperture to access more talent than traditionally just looking at, who's had this job before or who has a
yeah.
4-year college
Hmm,
degree. When it comes to learning and development, this this concept kind of opens up a whole new way to learn in the flow of work.
hmm,
And this is really important because we know from research in learning and learning paradigms that our traditional approaches to learning, which is people in classrooms,
yeah.
um, the problem is that knowledge transfer to the actual workplace doesn't really happen. There's a lag in the application of
Correct.
that knowledge.
Correct.
But when we're learning when we're learning while we're working on a project, or while we're learning alongside
Yeah.
an AI aid
Yeah.
that is coaching us
Yeah.
or asking us questions,
Right.
that learning in the flow of work is a much more powerful way to embed new skills
Hmm,
and new thought
yeah.
processes with our employees. So I think that learning and development professionals would be
Hmm,
really fascinated by this concept around using internal gigs as a way to help people do some career exploration,
exactly right.
as well as help people to participate in some projects where maybe they don't have deep expertise, but they're really interested in learning and growing in that area.
Right.
And that by participating in that, they get to develop new skills along the way.
Absolutely. So there's an angle for talent development where you allow an individual to experiment and see what career direction or what job direction do they want to take for future. They can experiment, and on the other hand, they can learn new skills as well.
Yeah, in fact, I think career development is probably one of the biggest applications
Hmm,
today
hmm,
of what's called a talent marketplace technology, which is
yeah.
what drives this the ability to do
Yeah.
inside gigs within companies. And I think that's a very popular approach to helping me understand the gap between what I'm interested in,
Hmm,
the skills gap between what I'm interested in and where I'm
Where
at,
I'm at right
and
now.
then what kind of either learning or opportunities, a project might help me gain the skills that I need to facilitate my career.
Interesting. Very interesting. Can we go deeper and maybe look at a few examples, Edie? What kind of internal projects would they look like? I see a very tangible application where an IC can experiment whether they are fit for a manager role or not, right? By experimenting or leading small teams or leading a small project and trying to see where do they see themselves right now? Do they have the right skills to be a manager or not? Right? Testing the waters. If they don't like it, they can come back to an IC role. I don't, whether that fits
Yeah.
into the paradigm.
Yeah. So, a couple great questions. And this is a place that some companies, I've seen them get tripped up in early
Hmm,
stages.
hmm,
This isn't the place where bad work goes to live, right?
hmm.
This isn't like all my administrative tasks I want to put, out on a
Yeah,
gig because
right,
I don't want to do that work. This is really where opportunity
correct.
exists. And I love your example. Let's say, regardless, you're in a role, maybe a more technical role, and you're
Hmm,
really interested in being a manager, but you don't know if you have what it
yeah,
takes. Well, if you volunteer to work on a project where you're the project lead and you
yeah,
have to lead a team of people,
yeah,
that experience exposes you what it's like to be a manager,
correct.
and you can put your skills to the test. And it's also kind of a realistic job preview. Like,
True.
do you want to do this? Do
It's an
you want
audition.
to help coach and advise other people and
Correct,
lead a
correct.
team through something? So that's one really great application of, if I put a project out on the platform, uh, uh, to do an inside
Hmm,
gig, it exists, within some kind of framework of a deliverable for
hmm,
a customer, let's
hmm.
say. So we need to test out a new system. We need to create and then test out a new system
Yeah,
that's going to solve a problem for a
yeah,
customer.
yeah.
So first, we need to gather people with different expertise. So we need to identify who has this different expertise to come work on this project.
Hmm,
Then we need somebody who's going to be the project leader,
hmm,
who is going to oversee the development of this solution
hmm,
that will
hmm,
solve that client problem.
hmm.
And all these people who are coming in from different disciplines to work on this problem,
Yeah,
now they're building relationships with
correct,
people across the organization.
correct.
And you start to think about how that greases the wheels of a company, because the more internal relationships we have across boundaries
Hmm, hmm.
allow us to access knowledge and information that helps us do our job better.
Yeah,
So these projects have the ability to really increase the productivity of the organization, by solving a business critical problem,
yeah,
by allowing people to grow and develop their skills,
yeah.
and by developing broader relationships across the
Right,
company.
right. So, I mean, I'm just drawing parallels from the leadership development space, Edie, and I think this has the potential of changing completely the way the leadership development programs are being thought about or designed, right? So
Yeah.
they're not really the structured, thought through process or process driven programs, but rather, hey, this is a job or this is a project. Are you fit to be a manager? Let's test it out, let's experience, and let's take you through that journey of being a manager or a leader during this journey, and hence impart the right skills that are required to be imparted, isn't it? So that changes the
Yeah.
entire thought process behind the leadership development programs in a way.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about leadership development, you have to think about, kind of the two different roles of a
Hmm,
manager, right?
hmm,
You have to, there's part of it is leading the work, being the project manager,
correct.
big part of it. And the other part is leading the people, or the
People.
people management aspect of it. Um, Internal development has to address both aspects of that job.
Hmm,
Um, and in fact, I think that training managers to coach their team
yeah,
is one of the hottest areas in talent development
right,
today.
right.
Employees are craving more coaching and feedback from their managers, but most managers spend 90% of their time as the project manager or even as an individual contributor, and then only 10% of their time managing the people. So helping managers effectively engage in one-on-ones is a great starting place for a learning opportunity.
Right.
And there are tons of new AI tools that can help managers be better leaders of their people by helping them structure their time or focus on maximizing the team's output, not just their own output.
Correct.
So Risely actually is one example of an AI-based solution that provides managers with that kind of personalized coaching exactly when the manager needs it. Like right before I'm going to go have a conversation with my employee, I want to make sure that, I have the right frame of what are we working on? What might the behaviors be of that individual that I'm trying to share?
Right.
What are the behaviors I'm trying to share?
I need to demonstrate.
Right?
Correct. Yeah. No, absolutely. So I can see where AI fits into this, right? But before even technology comes in, I think there's a fundamental question of organization being ready for this, right? So let's say there's an organization who's not practicing the inside gig right now, and they want to. So what do they need to get started, right? What are the basic fundamentals or principles do they need to put in place even before technology comes in to supercharge those initiatives?
So let's be very clear. This is still a really, really new idea that some of the most progressive companies in the world are starting to operate in this manner. And we're seeing amazing results, amazing return on investment for operating in this new way. But it's not something every company is doing.
Sure.
But for a company that wants to kind of get started on the journey, I think, the first thing is to understand the key skills and that are driving the strategy of the organization, and to understand the skills that your own employees have. So that's kind of the foundation.
That's a baselining of it, right?
And then really paying attention to this mindset that we're trying to create within managers of a talent sharing mindset. Because most managers kind of covet and hoard their own talent. Like, these are my people. You can't have any of them. They're so overloaded, they can't do anything else. But the truth of the matter is that when employees opt in to work on projects for their own passions and their interests, we get into a state that's called flow when we're working on something we're deeply engaged in. And when we're in flow, we're much more productive.
Absolutely.
Everyone listening to this remembers that project that I so did not want to do, that I kept looking at social media to avoid doing that.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
We've all been there. But finding projects where employees are deeply engaged and immersed really helps them to unleash that productivity within the organization. So some companies have started with baby steps, just using like a SharePoint site where I can put up projects that are available. But to truly enable talent sharing at scale across your organization, you do need a technology solution.
Absolutely. So, very important question, and we're coming towards the end, but very important question, right? You did mention that few organizations are starting to experiment and adapt it and deploy it and are seeing amazing results, right? Can you give us a few examples and also the ROI metrics, that they're using to track? Because at the end of the day, if I want to be a change maker in my organization, I should be able to sell it to my senior leaders, right? So what should I use to be able to sell it? What ROI drivers should I be looking at or building my business case to start thinking in this new paradigm?
Okay, well, I'll give you the one that comes to mind most easily because it was the very first project that I worked on that kind of got this idea underway. And it is one of the case studies that we talk about in the Inside Gig, which is a company called Here Technologies. Most people don't know who they are. They do have an app with a map. they provide location-based services to the companies that they serve. And they're mostly like if you drive a BMW, an Audi, or a Mercedes, they're in the NAS system that drive your car. But there you can imagine with like Apple and new technologies, their world of work was changing rapidly. Skill sets were changing in the company. Demands from customers were changing really quickly. So they needed to both be more agile in how they use their talent and moving people to more critical projects. So they needed to know what skills people had so that they could put them on projects.
Yep.
And as I said, the technology was changing really quickly. So they needed to find a way to really upskill their employees in the flow of work.
Right.
So that was kind of the business case for why they were interested in this. For them, talent marketplace technologies did not exist. So they had to build their own.
Okay.
Once they did that, after their first year of implementation, they estimated that they saved $14 million based on being able to leverage their own internal talent versus hiring contractors or going out and hiring new
outsourcing or
employees.
hiring new employees.
Yeah.
Wow.
They their employee engagement levels went up significantly. Now, we don't think it was only because of internal talent mobility, but we do think that played a significant role in increased employee engagement. And also, when they looked at the projects that ended up getting staffed, like how people came together to work on these business critical projects, people were coming from multiple disciplines, from different departments. 85% of the projects were cross-functional expertise brought together to solve a problem. So you start to think about the amount of business acumen that gets built within a company. As I mentioned before, the relationships that get built, both people in different countries, as well as people across different disciplines. And they think that was really critical to fueling innovation within the company.
Absolutely. I think what you mentioned was some of the tangible benefits, but the intangible benefits, like you mentioned in the end, right? They're even more valuable than the tangible benefits that
That's
actually you can realize, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and that's the magic that happens when people, do what they love doing, and they're just engaged in the task or in the project that they actually love doing that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's really, really great, Edie. So we're coming towards the end. Any final thoughts that you would like to share, either with the organizations or with the talent who's looking for new opportunities, or why should they look at such companies who are promoting the inside gig?
Well, I'm not going to encourage you to think only of companies that are promoting the inside gig, although that's really important. I remember years ago, I was working with a technology company, and they had thoughtfully put together kind of career paths for their employees. And things are changing today. We certainly suggest companies do this a little bit more dynamically today. But back then, it was the idea that a company has thought of me. A company is investing in my development. They've thought of me not just as an individual in a job, but an individual who's going to have a career with this company. So what I'm really excited about in the era of leadership development and what's happening today is all these new AI technologies are really going to be able to put a coach in the palm of somebody's hand.
Right.
We couldn't do that at scale before. And we now have the technology that enables us to help people be their best selves, to pursue the career that they were interested in. And I'm just very excited about the growth opportunities available given the technologies that we have that can help people learn in the flow of work, whether it's AI coaching, or whether it is something like a talent marketplace that can connect people to opportunities within their own company. All of this is technology enabling employees to learn while working.
Awesome. Well, Edie, thank you so much for sharing your insights and thoughts with us today. And I'm sure our audience would have really loved listening to this episode. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah. All right, folks. So there it is. So if you want to look at your career in a different light, or if you're an organization looking to look at talent in a different way in the coming years, this is the new paradigm that you must explore. And definitely reach out to Edie if you would like to know more. All right. So that's it for today. Until the next episode, you folks take care. And I'll see you next time with a new episode of the Rise Up Radio. Bye bye.